So this is today's build. I'm calling it the Tuxedo Build because we're going for black and white. What we've got is the Phantom 630. It's a black case on the box, but it's actually white. And we've got the black and white motherboard, the Z9 7S SLI Krait edition by MSI. Now this is what I'm most proud of. With the RAM, I've actually gone with the VRAM, and I've just made sure to get the same RAM but different colours. So we're actually going to be using 2x4, so 8 gig, 8 gig, 16 gig total. And I think it's going to really look good with the black and white build having the alternate RAM sticks. For the processor, we've got the i7 4790K, which is the top tier brand in the i7 category for the LGA 1150 sockets. So that'll be going in. For the PSU, I've gone with the EVGA SuperNOVA 750 G2, 750 watts, which I think is probably overkill for the amount of power I'll be using. I went with this power supply because it's got modular cables, so that's going to be important for a proper cable management. And it's mostly black, so continues with the black and white theme of the build. For the CPU, I've decided not to use the stock air cool, and we're going with the liquid cooling. This is the Kraken X41, recommended to me by the retailer. This is by NZXT, which is the same company that makes the case, and it's just got I think it's a 140mm radiator. And let's see here on the specs. Yeah, 140mm, only aluminum, not copper, which is unfortunate. But I'm not like a super. This is my first liquid cooled build, so I went with the all-in kit because I really don't trust my own skill level to make a custom build. And I've heard good things about it. And as for the aesthetic, it's got a white fan, so that fits the black and white build, and then the rest is black. And then this here is actually an RGB LED, so I'm just going to set that to white, so it'll continue with the theme. And yeah, lastly, that's just the case, which, as I said before, is actually white. It is black on the box for some reason. I hope it's white on the inside. We'll open it up in a sec, and that'll really complete the build. And it's got nice cable management options, so yeah, looking forward to building this. Okay, so we've just inserted the CPU. I gotta say, this is my first build and that was really, really scary. I actually felt like I was gonna break the thing, but yeah, I've lined it up correctly and I got the retention plate down, and now we're ready for the RAM. Just more info on this CPU. This is the i7 4790K by Intel, Haswell microarchitecture, and it's got 4 GHz clock speed, which is uncapped, so you can push that up to, I think, 4.4 GHz overclocking it. I'm not actually sure exactly on that, but we'll try and do that later on. And it's got 8 meg cache as well, and it's for the LGA 1150 socket, which means it supports DDR3 only. I was thinking of getting the 1151 socket with DDR4, but the price difference for the performance gain I thought wasn't really worth it. And I don't think with hyper-threading, even then that was questionable, because most games these days don't utilize multi-cores as much as they should, but I'm hoping that'll change in the future. For now, it was just the 4 GHz clock speed, which was the most appealing part of the CPU. And yeah, now probably the most expensive part of the initial case, not including the GPU, has been put in. I feel a bit less stressed out now, so let's keep going with the RAM. Okay, here we are with the RAM now installed. This is 4 lots of 4 GB, so 16 gig total, which I think is the maximum Windows 7 can actually support, and that's the operating system I prefer. And I've got to say, this is probably like the part of the build I'm most proud of, because I saw that HyperX had black and white RAM. I made sure to get the exact type of RAM, because there's always, you're not actually supposed to have different types of RAM in the dual RAM. So this is the exact same RAM, just different color on the outside. So there shouldn't be any problems there. And it just really fits the motherboard perfectly. And you can actually see the RAM slots are actually black and white as well. So I put the white RAM in the white slot and the black RAM in the black slot. So it actually, yeah, looks really good. Okay, this is the case. This is the Phantom 630 by NZXT. I've got to say, when I first opened this, there was all plastic all over it, and it was super static electricity, like completely insane. Like my mate touched it and got badly zapped. It was actually so bad I ended up getting this shoe and just lightly touching the case in different parts, and you could actually hear like the full-on electricity noise. So that was freaky, and I think I've got rid of the static electricity now. I'm no expert with building PCs, so I'm not sure if that's common or whatever, but it's not something you want to have when you're about to install the motherboard. So I hope that's all the static gone. As for the case itself, I'm actually in awe of the size. I did not expect it to be this big. It's a full tower. I'm actually, my previous computer over here was mid tower, so that's the size difference, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, going with the black and white theme again, we've got, this is a predominantly white case with just black accents, and the fans are, I think they're, is it 240mm? I'm not sure on the dimensions, but we've got, I think this is the 140, I'm not sure. But yeah, we've got the fans, one there, one on the top, which I'm going to possibly attempt to use for a push-pull system with the liquid cooling. I'm not sure yet if that's doable. And then there's another one just on the front here. And we've got, there's a dust filter. Basically dust filters everywhere. And let's see at the front here, two 3.0, two 2.0, audio jacks. What's this? Not sure what this is. I'll have to look at that later. Could be LED or fan control or something, or even the power. And there's an SD slot. I will not be, well, there's the SD slot. I'll not be using that. I will be taking out one of these to put in an optical drive, which I still very rarely use. Usually it's all digital these days. Yeah, and there's two types of the 630. This is the windowed version, which I got because I do really want to show off the interior of the build. You can actually get another version which is about half of this, and then it's got a weird side fan thing, which is, I think, was pretty useless, so I didn't go with that. What else? Yeah, we got, that's where the PSU is going to go. It's got filters on the bottom as well. There's the rear I/O ports, and you see you've got these things everywhere. These little sliders, so you can actually move things around with the screw. You don't have actual screw holes, you've got screw sliders, so that helps with the customization a bit. Alright, let's get to work on installing the motherboard. Okay, so now we've got the motherboard installed into the case. The case actually came pre-installed with the standoffs, or the risers, so that was good. That's probably the biggest mistake you can make when installing a motherboard. If you forget to put those in and you turn on the rig, you'll actually short out the motherboard and possibly fry like every component in your system, which would suck. Now this is the rear I/O port. I actually had a bit of difficulty installing it because it's just a clip-on thing, so for a while there this part was not fully clipped in, and so the motherboard was not properly going up against the screw holes, but I managed to get that sorted and everything looks good there, except for this one here, which is the old mouse keyboard ports, which no one uses. Just a weird thing with the I/O panel not fully having these little extra bits. It was just, yeah, it's just weird, but it doesn't really matter because I don't use that port. And yeah, it's pretty cool that we've got actual full 7.1 surround on the motherboard. Usually you need an audio card for that. At least on my old build I had to get an audio card, but now the motherboard actually comes with 7.1 surround. And lots more 3.0 slots. Alright, next step is installing the PSU. So we've done the build now with the cables. I've put all the cables in and done, there's the power supply there. And I'm just started to do the cable management, routing everything through the back. And I've got all the motherboard cables plugged into the motherboard now. This here was pretty tricky. I didn't actually have an M connector, so I had to do all that manually for the first time, which was kind of scary, and I hope I've done it correctly. Yeah, it's USB 2.0, USB 2.0, the HD audio, and that's USB 3.0 here. That's the motherboard power, and then there's CPU power. And yeah, it's looking good at the moment. Next step is we're going to install the CPU liquid cooling, and then we're going to finish off with the GPU, optical drive and hard drives. So here we are with the Kraken unboxed. We've got the 140mm radiator, 37mm wide, which is apparently slightly bigger than the X40. This is the X41. That's the fan that's going to blow the air out of the radiator. And this is the CPU water block. And as you can see, it's made out of copper and it's got thermal paste already applied, which is good because I wouldn't want to do that. And over here we've got mounting brackets for the back and the front and just all the screws. Alright, let's put this thing in. Okay, so here we are with the liquid cooling installed on the CPU. It was actually pretty crazy difficult to do, and I'm not super happy with just the extra length of cabling we've got there, but that's what you get when you go all-in-one builds. I actually ended up taking off this top section here to try and mount the liquid cooling here, but I couldn't actually get it to work. It either just didn't look good enough on the bottom, or actually had problems with like the actual space. It wouldn't fit. So I've got to mount that back on the top, and you have to take off the side panel to access the top panel as well, which is pretty annoying, but hopefully I won't have to do that again. And this is the stock cooler that Intel provides for the CPU that I could have used, but instead I've gone with the liquid cooling because we're going to try and overclock it. Alright, next step is we're going to put the case back together, install the GPU and the optical drives and the hard drives. Okay, so here we are with the final build.
I've seen it in the movie one day.
This is the case is now on and it's looking pretty good.
It even worked, dude.
Here we've got the this is the DVD drive, just hidden behind the case there. And yeah, all that mess at the back, hidden behind this cable, behind that port. And over here we've got, that's just the rear I/O, and looking good there. We're going to plug everything in now and turn it on. No, okay, so this is the computer now up and running. Haven't really customized much yet. If you actually look over at the monitor, we're still in the very early stages of setting up the software. Contemplating going to Windows 10, just doing research here. It seems like DirectX 12 is the main like hook point for it, for gamers anyway. But not many games are supporting DirectX 12 yet, so I'm not sure. But it's free for a while, so we'll see. I may upgrade, may not. And yeah, what else? We had some issues with this fan here. If you actually look at that fan there, in the box at the factory, it was actually here. And I decided to move it over there just because I've already got this fan for the CPU radiator there, so I just spaced them out. What actually happened was, see that metal bar there, that actually was hitting the fan and like stopping it from, which made a really loud noise when spinning. So what we've done is we've just got some risers, just some like washers to like lift the fan up off the off that metal bar. But it's weird because, you know, they give you the option to mount the fans on either of those two slots, but then if you mount it there, you get that crazy noise. So It's a bit weird why they had that set up like that. Yeah, there's my optical drive. It's basically ancient tech at this point, but it's still occasionally used, so I've taken that over. Going for the black and white build, we've got this here, which is a RGB LED, so I can change that to whatever color I want. Right now it's just at the default settings. And this here is the main problem. This is the GTX 970 G1 Gigabyte gaming video card. It's got the back plate, which is great, but it's got this LED here, which you can see the red and black wires running along into the LED point. That's causing issues because it's only blue, it's not RGB, so that clashes with the build a bit. So what I've done is I've ordered a white LED in from some company in Hong Kong, I think. I'm not sure. I just looked at a guide online how to change out the LED. I know people that have soldering kits, so I can use the solder, and I'm going to swap that over to white LED at some point. And yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out. I may do another video later on. This is the old build here. Arguably it wasn't really worth upgrading. I could have probably held out on this build for quite a while longer, but I decided to do the upgrade. This build was the GTX 760. That's a i5 2500K CPU by Intel. The motherboard is Gigabyte. I can't actually remember. Gigabyte, then a bunch of letters and numbers. I'm not actually sure. And the power supply is 650 watt by Antec. We went with the EVGA 750 watt for the new build with modular cables and black cabling. As you can see here, the cabling is multicolored. I left in the two old school hard drives. That's a 300 gig and a 500 gig, and I'm selling this build to a mate, or I've already sold the build to a mate. He's gonna use that build just for some reason or another. And here we've got just 2 sticks of 4 gig RAM. I think that's also Kingston. Can't actually remember because I built this build like 5-6 years ago now. Yeah, so I basically took out the SSD, 2 mechanical drives and the optical from here, and moved them all over into my new build. Can I actually show you the... Is there a way to show you? I don't think there is. Yeah, that's what the optical drive looks like from the front. Actually looks really good from the front. Just fits in fine with the black mesh. I thought it was black, it might have clashed with the white, but it actually ends up just looking great. And that's just for wireless. Yeah, you can't really see, but I've got the 2 mechanicals in these bays here. You can just see them there. And the SSD is actually interesting. The SSD actually, this Phantom 630 case came with the 2 SSD brackets mounted on the back of the case. So I've just behind the motherboard on the other side of the case, I've mounted the SSD. And I'm actually, yeah, I'm really proud of the cable management as well. You should be able to see there. You can sort of see the huge mess of cables just, you know, hidden behind the white panel. Everything's just been routed up through things as basically as close as they need to be to avoid clutter. The that's the motherboard power, VGA power, and you can just see the SSDs there. Yeah, the HyperX RAM, really proud of that. CPU cooler, we'll change that color. Just the fan going to the radiator. I'll talk about the fan setup as well. We've got 1 intake fan here. That's a huge fan, I'm not sure of the diameter. Then we've got exhaust fan here, exhausting air out through the CPU. Exhaust fan on the top. And yeah, that's the 3 case fans. Then we've got the PSU's got the fan facing down, intaking air, and then exhausting out through here. And then the graphics card itself has got 3 fans on the bottom. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got to show. So Thanks for watching.